Welcome to the Conscious Diabetic Podcast.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the Conscious Diabetic Podcast. Now, this week is going to be the first one that we do on video, and also it is going to be my first ever guest. And that guest is, number one, I was a big fan of hers, still am, for over 20 years in music. Number two, we became really good friends over the years. I've worked with her, for her. My wife is one of her contemporaries as well. And recently, or not so long ago, she also became a type 1 diabetic. I welcome you, DJ Lisa Lashes.
Hello, that was a lovely intro. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So
yeah, well, this is the first time that I've ever spoke about being a diabetic, so no one really knows.
Yeah, that was the thing. Last time we spoke, let's say it's some people keep diabetes under wraps, and the whole point of me talking about this or the podcast was to effectively shine some light with people who have a sort of a busy lifestyle or have been diabetic for not so long, or again, for me, it's been 36 years. So I almost feel it as my mission now to try and talk about diabetes as much as possible. So I'm going to run back through some of your history. So you have been in music for a long, long time. You were voted the world's #1 female DJ. You've toured the world. You've obviously led
49 countries.
49 countries, yeah. Obviously, the lifestyle of a DJ is pretty hectic. So you've toured, you've done loads of things. And one of your latest endeavors or things that you're doing is you recently set up a school of music called the Lisa Lashes School of Music as well, where you're working with the UK government and various other bodies as well. So please talk us through sort of a bit of your history of all that, really. I'm sure we could talk about this for another 2 hours, but a brief rundown of everything, please.
Okay. So started in 97, DJing when there was not many female DJs, to be honest with you. I just love music anyway. You know, I was quite a late starter. I was like 26. I was working at Marks and Spencer's at the time. And I found a club. My friend JP was like, come to this club. And it was Bond's at Mini Pennies in Birmingham. I was like, this is where everybody is. I totally love it here. And I spent the entire time that I was there just watching Lisa Loud and John Kelly kind of like DJing like that. I didn't dance, didn't do anything. I was like, oh my God, I absolutely love it. Just love mesmerized by music kind of thing. And my friend JP, her boyfriend came to stay at my house, and he had some decks, and his mum and dad said they were way too noisy, and can you bring them round? And it's thankfully we had a deaf neighbour. I've only just realised that the other day when I was with my friends for my birthday. They were like, do you remember that we had the best time? Because the neighbour was deaf. I was like, oh yeah, oh my God, because it was pretty loud in the house. Anyway, so he brought some Technics decks around. I wasn't really allowed to go on them though. I could just about polish them, but I had to be careful of the needle kind of scenario.
We've got our Technics just behind us. Well, they're actually my wife's Technics, but they're just behind me as well.
And how old are they? Like 20 odd years?
They are this is her pride and joy. They are, I think, 20 years old, and they're the original ones she purchased, and they're more important than I am.
No, well, you know, obviously, of course, music comes first. So I started having a little practice on my friend's decks when he was at work. I used to be at Marks and Spencer's with my uniform on, come home at lunchtime, have a little go, put them back to where they're supposed to be, go back to work, kind of thing. And then one day he came back home being sick, and I was on them. Just polishing them, you know, kind of scenario. And it was that evening that his friends came round, and he said, Lisa's been on the decks, let's have a little look what's going on then. So I just started playing tunes, and they started passing me different tunes and stuff, and it was like, oh, I could mix quite well straight off. And then I did a little bit of practicing, but within 7 weeks I went to a party on the River Severn and met a few promoters there, and then sort of like weeks later I was DJing with like Paul Oakenfold, Just Jules, like pretty much like everybody, and I was so not ready. I was like, I'm so not ready. I used to go to the pound shop and hock in like a record for a new record each time. Do you know what I mean? They're like, yeah, you can have new, a new style kind of thing. Like, this was in Nuneaton, and then from there it basically went quite quickly, because I think first of all, the club on Sunday in Birmingham was called Sunday Central. That was like a massive, one of the first super clubs. He was around the corner. It was fantastic, wasn't it?
I was there every week in
Birmingham.
Yeah. Sunday Central was one of my go-to places.
Absolutely love it. And now I see all the pictures and stuff like that. They've got like a forum and stuff. You're like, wow, did we actually wear that? Were we allowed out like this?
Yeah. I spoke with Dan Prince. Dan Prince is a friend now, from the original Sunday Central days as well. So it's funny who you meet here. In Ibiza as well,
because he lives in Ibiza now, doesn't he? That's right.
He does indeed. And I worked with his wife and himself a little bit in the past. So
amazing. He started my first with Kath McKenzie. I did an agency with those called Centro all those years back. Like, so he kind of started it for me as well. So he'll be happy to hear that. He'll be like, yes, where's my 10%? But I think it was because the female DJ, obviously there was, Spice Girls and stuff like that in the charts. So it was quite like good for clubs. It was kind of like on trend for them to have a female DJ in there, and they didn't even care whether you were good or not, which was quite annoying. But thankfully, most of the girls, you were good.
You were good. So,
so that's cool. But yeah, no, it was right time, right place. Kind of rocketed my career straight around the world. I did a lash party with Raymond Tristram. He did lash parties for a year and did Judgment Sundays. Pretty much first lady in China. Euphoria albums, which are the biggest selling kind of like hard house albums in the world. I think I've done like about 9 of those now. I can't, it's not until somebody puts it on there, you're like, oh wow, I forgot about that and that. Oh my gosh, and the music is so hard. But that's cool. I didn't mind. That's all good.
I remember purchasing all the Euphorias, all the Tidy Girls albums,
but it's just amazing, isn't it? 'Cause the memories from that is just fantastic, isn't it? You put that tune on, it takes you right back to like 20, 25 years ago, doesn't it? So that's what I absolutely love about music, really. But that's what I'm doing now.
Music is so important, and obviously that brings us to say a little bit. We'll talk about your music school, so just a little bit, because we'll move on to the diabetes bit next. But you started a music school recently as well, so what happened there?
Well, it was like 2017. I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go with music. I was like, I'd come out of the hard house scene by then. I dipped into the trance, a bit of the psytrance, and then into techno. And I was like, I don't know. I was in kind of like one of those, I've been doing it 20 odd years then, and thinking, what do I want to do? And then I kind of thought, I've got loads of experience, 20 odd years of experience. Why can't I give that back to, some youngsters or whatever? So I was thinking of doing like an under 18s kind of workshop. Which I actually did. So 2017, I went down to see Philip Colvin, QC in London, and he said, "You've got so many ideas." He's like, "Just stick to one," kind of thing, like, because I was like, "I want to do this, I want to do that." That's how I met the Nighttime Industry Association, which I'm now on the board of directors as well. That was amazing. So I started I did 2 events in 2018 in May, 19th of May, and that's where I met my business partner, who's Deborah. She brought her son. He wasn't allowed in because he was outside of Leicester, but then thankfully, thank goodness, I brought him in. He could, it was his birthday. So, and that's where I met Deborah, who's my the MD for the school. Her son had been had lots of trouble through like school, ADHD. He doesn't mind me saying something, but lots of kind of like troubles. He's not a troubled lad. He's an amazing lad, but he just, you know, might fidget a little bit or do this or. You know, when there's a class of 30 people, it's hard, isn't it, for the teacher to control everyone. So it's like, right, get out, blah blah blah. And that's the worst thing that you could do for some people is isolate them. So so anyway, she left him with me for the day, and we did about 6 hours of music and stuff, introduced them to everything. Roland was there, you know, Technics was there, Pioneer and stuff. And yeah, she said basically it changed his life. Like all the way home, because she lives in Kent, she said for hours she just had that connection then with him. You know, she said just a teenage boy, would never speak to their parents and stuff like that. But she said through the music there was a connection that that she'd never seen before. And yeah, she was like, "Do you want to do something?" And I was like, "Yes." So she was into funding, education, mine obviously music. So I started writing lessons. Mind maps, filled the house with mind maps like that. Took a picture of it. She was like, "Oh my gosh, what have I kind of unleashed here?" But then within a couple of weeks, we got funding from a training academy that she'd known in Northampton, and we opened our first school. And that was a free school funded by the government, because I don't believe that, well, for definitely music, there shouldn't be a price on that. Everyone should have that for free, same as education. Yeah. So that was my specific thing. Want it free. Yeah. So we worked really hard to see what funding fits. Sometimes you have to layer it up from everywhere to just take everything. It's hard work, but you know, you'll do that anyway. And yeah, so School of Music was born in 2018 and still going now. And we are a grade 4 alternative provision in Cambridge and Peterborough. And we are working with the public sector for the police now as a intervention unit for gangs and violent crime. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that sort of so that, as you say, that experience, those years, and that experience or want to share that knowledge and information is similar to exactly why I started the Conscious Diabetic, because that knowledge and information, it's exactly that same thing. My mission personally is to at least help 1 million other people or diabetics to enhance enhance or improve. You have to go big and so that brings us into the diabetes side of things. So obviously a couple of years ago, you reached out to me, I think it was, and then you said, "Hey,
how do you cope?" Well, that was the week that I started the school. Exactly that week. I started the school on the Tuesday and Wednesday, and on the Thursday I went into the doctors and they went, you've got diabetes.
So you're again, the reason obviously we're talking is your diagnosis was a little bit later on in life. Mine was at 5 years old. So in that, I can still remember it. It's burned into your memory, but I don't remember sort of the emotions as I grew up. So what was sort of your emotional response to the diagnosis? Obviously being a busy person, successful woman, and being in the position that you're in, really, what like, explain those sort of emotions and what it was like, really.
Well, I mean, I was quite grateful in the end, because apparently that, you know, I'd basically gone to Abu Dhabi. I wasn't well on the plane. They'd taken me off and did my stats, and they said I was having a heart attack, and I was like, "Really? Am I? Like, I don't feel anything. Do you know what I mean? Is this a heart attack?" Anyway, I had to stay in hospital. I was just about to go to tour in Australia. I was on my own, and so they took me into hospital, and they thought I'd had a heart attack, but they didn't test me for diabetes. So it wasn't until I got back, did the tour, still did the tour, came back.
Probably with like super high blood sugars all the time. So this is where the heart thing comes from, because your blood sugar.
Well, you didn't know.
Yeah, and also there's a lack of transit of oxygen, I believe, when your blood sugar's so high. It's like, I've had it so many times where it's like poison, and this is why your heart would have struggled,
then they
really.
and they wouldn't have known that, so they kept me in. They were like, fine. So I did the tour. So anyway, when I got back on Thursday, they said, need to come and get some tablets, there's no problem. And then she rang me straight away. Got back home, she rang me straight away. She says, I think you need to come back in, your levels are like 33 right now.
Right.
So
Okay.
so I was like, I don't know what that means. So I went in. She showed me how to do the finger prick thing, and I've had to inject like 8 times a day with a leveler every 12 hours, and then every time I eat with a fast. So
again, just to highlight that your blood sugar generally for any quote unquote normal person usually is around 4.5 to 5 millimoles, and then it's different for stateside people. There's a different conversion, and then typically for us diabetics, we try and aim for that sweet spot between 5 and 8 millimoles, which I'm telling you is a mission. It's a mission. We become, I found, just automatically I become a human calculator and number monitor for everything. Has it been the same for you? Do you get this rude awakening of the nutritional information of everything that goes in your body, also your external energy expenditure, and then you get highlighted by all these variables from stress, hormones, heat, I don't know, just like all these things which affect your blood sugar. And I would say for a newly diagnosed diabetic, you're not really prepared for it if you lead a lifestyle. I'd say in your mid-30s, or if you're in your 40s and you've run a really normal life and then you get hit with this train, is that what it was like, sort of having to adjust? What were your processes for adjustment?
So 2018, I wasn't really DJing that much because I took that time out to write all the lessons, start looking at, doing the school and stuff. So my feet were on the ground. I wasn't having to fly all over the place, because I think if I'd ever had the diagnosis earlier on, when I was busy in the career, kind of flying around and stuff, I don't think I would have been able to. I don't think I'd have been able to do what I did, basically, because it was, your body doesn't know that it's 12 hours different in Australia and stuff. No. It needs to have that regular all the time, doesn't it?
It does mess up, especially when I went to Australia. There is that switch around. It is easier now because I've got the pumps and the CGM, and so it does make it slightly easier when you do that. But with your injections, everything takes adjustment wherever you are in the world, especially with you go the other way to America. There's one way because you're trying to normalize.
It's crazy, isn't it?
You're trying to normalize where you are.
But it's really important to eat the right kind of food and inject at that time, that to keep yourself on a level. So you're, from the minute you wake up until the minute you go to bed, you're always thinking about, am I doing this? How do I feel? I'm a little bit sweaty, do you know what I mean? Starts at my knees and like that. What a really crazy place to start like that. I'm like, I need to go test. But it's amazing now though with technology. I've got one of the Libras. Basically, So when I was out at the 90s Fest and Chris Brown was there, and I was finger pricking like that, because it's so sore, isn't it? You can't actually even type or anything. Oh my gosh, got black fingertips.
I'll talk about this. I'm going to talk about this in the future, but in the 80s, there was these horrible machines which completely destroyed your fingertips, because obviously
I forgot them just in case. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were
far away from it. Yeah,
they were like guillotines, and they just smashed into your finger. But obviously, you've got most of your nerve endings in the end tips of your fingers. So for any diabetic that's doing their blood sugar in their tips, don't do that. You should actually do it in the side of your fingers, because you maintain your nerve endings then just in the top, in the sides, and it doesn't hurt so much, because you can really destroy your fingers.
But when I do it to my friends and I go, let's have a look, see if you've got diabetes, I always change the needle, obviously. I always do it on the top there. They're like, you have to do that all the time. Yes.
It's again, it's hard. Again, for the listeners and for the people who are listening, it never stops.
No.
it takes up a lot of mental space,
Yeah.
which there is a thing called diabetes burnout, which if you've not experienced it yet, you may do in the future, in that you just mentally burn out with having to think about it, to take care of it, and you do have to reset once in a while, because it's constantly there. That's all I can say. It is
Yeah.
50% of my mental space. The other stuff is day-to-day life. Now, in sort of speaking on that mindfulness and mindset side of things, what was the impact on your sort of mental health? Because that is being talked about so much more now.
Yeah. I think the first year I was fine, because I think you go through that honeymoon period or something, isn't it, where your pancreas is still making some hormones, so you're okay. Like, you're not having so many kind of like you've got a little bit of help, like your body's still working a little bit. After that first year, I didn't like it after that, because it was like I was going massive highs, massive lows, like really quickly, because you've got no more hormones. So whatever you do, you have to inject for to keep yourself like kind of just going. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, the lows are awful. Like that, when I was at the school and stuff, if I even 10 minutes over the time that I was supposed to eat, all of a sudden it's just somebody's thrown a bucket of water over you like that. You're just like and trying to get out of that. It's like a stalled car. Do you know what I mean? Your car's kind of like not put it into gear properly, so you're like this, and it makes you feel like that all day. You get a mushy head and stuff. So I was like, I just don't know how I'm going to cope with this, you know. But at the end of the day, you just have to, otherwise you die.
Over time. It's that I compare it to, the only way I can compare it is like a battery, and it just feels like the battery, you're lowest on energy. You're just it's like the energy being sucked out of you, and there's that your brain does stop functioning, because I was with I'm luckily to have communicated with a specialist in Switzerland. I went to stay with him, who's one of the longest diabetes specialists in the world. And he said about the effect that low blood sugar has on the brain. And I had, and not many people know this, because I try and do a recap of everything that happened. So unfortunately, this Saturday, just gone, I ended up waking up with the police around me, the ambulance staff around me, just literally outside my house, and I had a plummeted blood sugar, and my heart had pretty much stopped. And I only found out from my wife was watching. They got the pads out. They were my heart had basically, because I was at like 0.5 or 1.
Oh my god.
And I didn't. It was one of those. It can, and I've been diabetic for so long, but I remember having this one sole mission, just to get home, and I did luckily have something, but it wasn't enough. And that happened this weekend, which.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was.
And how long did that happen? Like, not happened for a while.
It's not. That's a really extreme one, which I rarely get the super extreme ones. But my mind had been in work and other spaces, and it was just. It was one of those things.
Just
and
constant. You have to look after yourself all the time. There's no days off. There's no Christmas or New Year's or that never. It's like constantly trying to keep yourself alive, basically, isn't it?
That's the game. Like, I think that's the game, isn't it? I can only treat it as a game. So how I find on the diabetes side of things, how did diabetes meld with your professional life? As you said.
Yeah, so with the school, it's not too bad. So I've got lots of people around me, or and obviously it's the daytime. I did find it when just before lockdown, so I was playing out a little bit. You just got to get yourself ready. So I'm going to play for an hour and a half. So I need to make sure my levels are okay. Do I need to inject? Do I need to eat something? I need to have the juice over there, or blah blah. So it's not as rock and roll as I used to be. No.
It's future planning, isn't it? It's almost like where am I going to be in 2 hours or 3 hours, or what can I plan to where I need to be if I'm going to be out in a space or a public area or with friends, or how close am I going to be to food or emergency
stuff? I know, it is really, and it's really important, and it's so good that you're doing this, because I wouldn't know myself about diabetes and stuff like that. I remember I used to say to Vicky when we were in Sunday Centre, where's he gone? Where has he gone? So in Judgment Sunday, and she's like, oh, he's got diabetes. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And I think it's really important because, you could be the security or the health team or whatever who are at the events. I think they should know a lot about diabetes as well, because they could literally, if they chuck somebody out for thinking they were drunk, and that's how sometimes it affects some people.
Yeah,
they could kill them.
We'll just talk about that then, because I used to drink a lot in my former years, and then being drunk and also having a hypo, or even having high blood sugar, gives you what are known as ketones, and there's this really strong smell on the breath with ketones, and that can smell like alcohol. So I did have this a number of times with door staff, and where they let's say where I've been thrown out, and this I had to explain that I was diabetic, and same with the police. I've had run-ins with the police, and I was having a hypo, and the only thing that saved me is where is it? There we go. My tattoo that says type 1 diabetic is probably one of the lifesaver things for me, is that you can physically explain that you're diabetic, because I did run into problems in the past where, like, no, you're not. You're not diabetic.
Come on, out you get. Like, I need to. Yeah, exactly. No, it's really scary. And they do health and safety and first aid and stuff like that. I think that's really important. 5 jelly babies in your bag as well, or somebody at least knows about a little bit about what to do when they've got that. Even my friends get worried, and I'm not. Don't worry, and it's really good for you to tell them exactly what to do, because they sometimes will just glaze over, like, they're like, right, what does she need?
Exactly. They know what they're looking for. Again, Vicky, my wife, has a sixth sense for it now. She knows as soon as the
start. Quiet, what's he doing?
Yes, like I used to sweat, slurring of speech, that looking through you, glaze. But I not recently, but a few years ago, I lost my hypo awareness, which is obviously the low blood sugar. But I lost that ability, and that sometimes happens to long-term the long-term diabetics. It just disappears. But more recently, through the change of sort of better food and more fitness, more sort of self-awareness, that's slowly come back, and I can just about tell if I'm low. So again, more stuff to talk about in the future, but just little tidbits.
No, it is really important. Maybe we should look at kind of adding that into people's kind of skills when they're in like the first aid tent or whatever, to make sure there's always somebody in there that's like that, because it really is important. You can save somebody's life with just giving them some food, jelly babies or whatever.
I seen a lot more now that a lot more people are wearing either tattoos, or they have the bracelets, or they're more open than they used to be in the 90s, for example. Like there was in the 90s when I was at school, there was only me as the diabetic, and then 5 years later in high school, then there was one more diabetic called Brett as well. So, and then growing up, I know maybe 3 or 4, 5 more diabetics. One's a professional world champion karate dude. I can't remember. A friend of mine. And then I know a few more that do sort of extreme sports and things as well. So hopefully I'll be talking.
Guy, Stephen, what's it? He's one, isn't he? But then
Steve Redgrave, Steve Redgrave. Yep.
But he has his
I'm on Theresa May as well is also diabetic. But I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to get them on the podcast at some point to talk about it.
Yeah.
So with that taking care of yourself element, that wellness side, we spoke prior to this, and that your school is exploring that wellness and mindfulness space. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing because that's affecting the kids, isn't it? That's for the benefit of them, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so we have mindful lessons coming in. We do like a 12-week, 2 days a week program, and a lot of the times we're just like a respite for excluded kids. We don't want them to come to us for all of their education. We want to put them back into school. So we give them like bite-sized 45-minute lessons throughout the day. Loads of different things: music, social media, photography, videos, like games, whatever. And mindfulness. We do breathing, sitting on the floor, and they're like, "What are we doing?" Like, just shush and do this. It's all good like that. We do the tapping kind of thing.
Yes.
Because a lot of them need it. They are a little bit hyper. They can be, and it's nice to just kind of calm them down a little bit. We'll try and do a bit of yoga before the class starts and stuff. Not that like they want to do that kind of thing. They want to go on the bikes, but yes. So we call her spiritual gangster. Cat Chew, her name is. So she comes in and does just in a really nice way. It's not in your face. It's just like, let's just do some breathing kind of stuff, and this is the reason why. We'll listen to some binaural beats, and because it's all about your brain and how your brain. Your leg doesn't walk itself. Your brain makes your leg walk. So as long when your head's like, the people don't realize that.
It's all I always say, and I've been doing meditation and Buddhism meditation and binaural beats for about 15 years now, and did that. So, but everything starts up here. Everything starts up here, and
it's your synapses and your electrodes and stuff like that. So all of your you gamma, alpha, beta, all that kind of stuff, and sometimes it doesn't connect, right? And that's when people start going on drugs and stuff like that, because that bit doesn't connect properly. But the music and sport and meditation is the only way to get them to connect back in correctly. And we find that a lot of the people that we see have got have had a lot of trauma, which means that they'll have high cortisol levels, which is basically their mindset is completely in fight or flight mode, and that's why they get angsty, and that's why they get sometimes make the wrong choices, or
they either want to fight or flight. It's one of those things. And who did you say was doing that at the school?
So she comes in, so we have different people coming in and just teach them. Just give them as many lessons on life as possible, like the food kind of thing. It's one of the young lads comes in, he's like, not feeling well, he's got rose cheeks and stuff, and he's got a can of Red Bull Monster and eating at McDonald's. I'm like, well, that'll be why, He's like, would you ever think about maybe changing something up, and they're like, that, why would you want to? But in the end, they actually do, because they know it makes them feel better. Yes. They know that they can control their feelings a little bit more if you introduce, okay, well, let's just have some water instead of that or that, because that's going to make you feel like that just for the day. We can have an ice cream tomorrow, whatever. Not supposed to do that, but and it's just like introducing them to and letting them understand that, oh yeah, actually I felt okay yesterday. I'm doing that, and I might have a water again the following day. It's just like tiny little tweaks that you can do to people's lives. It really is.
Yeah, convenient. Again, Red Bull and Monster, I'm not knocking them, or the large food chains, but I can only say whatever you put in does come out sort of nutritional wise. I live it.
11, 12, 13, 14, but don't eat McDonald's, have a this, have a that. They're like, whatever. You break it down to them, make them feel better after they've had it. They go, oh, okay, actually I can concentrate a little bit more, or didn't need my medicine as much as I did before, or don't feel that anxious at the moment and stuff like that. So it's just those little tiny changes that you have to do.
So wrapping all that up, there's a few things to go. So out of everything, what would you say were your final strategies that you implemented with your diabetes? Really, so we'll break it down into maybe 3 or 4 things that maybe other people can take away that you implemented as you really.
So routine had to be one of them. Making sure that I do get up at exactly that time so I can take that injection. and make sure that I set an alarm for that time. I mean, my whole life is an alarm, really, every hour or every hour and a half, 2 hours, you know, that kind of thing. Okay, bang. And now it's, you know, even my phone actually wakes me up in the night if I'm kind of having a hypo and stuff, which is really good for these little Libras. I'd recommend those. Definitely saved my life many times.
Yeah,
you know. So
it's. I remember. See, I remember jumping from. God, so in the 80s it was like urine strips to test your blood sugar, which were
was it really?
yeah, and then you had to match like a little color chart, and that gave you a rough. Then there was obviously syringes. Well, we had to do injected with syringes. Then we moved on to the pens. Then I didn't have a pump until maybe 5 years ago, which that completely transformed everything from injections, because you feel like you might be being ruled by timings with the injections, because you've got to take your long acting, either Levemir or whatever you're on, and then you've got to take your short acting Humalog or Novorapid or whatever else you take there. But when I had it was called the Omnipod, that was something that I prayed for I don't know how long. And then the CG, my one is slightly different than yours. I've got the Dexcom, so again it's similar. You have to scan yours, don't you?
Does that give you insulin as well?
No,
does that give you insulin as well?
No, so my Dexcom is my blood sugar one, and then it talks to my Tandem T-Slim X2, which is my pump, and then that does everything, not automatically, but I tell it, you have to say what carbohydrates you eat, but it takes away that mental space that you, with the timings, you sort of give up that mental stress, and it does everything. Where are we? Let's have a look.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's attached to me. It's maybe that's it, and that's my graph today.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, and it just seems to give you that freedom of mental space. So
yeah, I mean, it's fantastic now with the app and stuff like that. But
yeah, exactly.
You know, I saw yesterday, in fact, they were using these Libras for sport now. So basically, getting people to eat more and seeing what that means. So basically, the higher they are, the more energy that you have. Is that right? Is that why?
I don't think it's the more energy you have, but depending on what you do exercise wise, because again, I found out when I do CrossFit and when I'm lifting heavy weights, like heavy over 120 kilos, and do certain things, post exercise within 10 minutes there's a big sugar dump from the muscles, I believe. Hopefully we'll have someone on to explain it properly at some point. But then I would correct, but then because my sensitivity is up, I would plummet. So it obviously the CGMs and the Libras and other things give you that extra layer of knowledge of how to respond and react to whatever stimuli or activity that you're under or been done. So it's a really good education, knowledge tool, I think, which goes in the diabetes toolbox to help us really. It's one of those things.
It's major as well. And I had to actually fight for mine. For 2 years, I was just on the normal thing until it came that the tips of my fingers were going black. I was like, I can't inject anymore. Like, honestly, I can't work basically if I keep doing that. So yeah, they gave me the Libra, but I've only had that less than a year, like 8 months or something, or less than that.
And it's already saved. For it. Yeah, it's the same. Again, you have to. For all the diabetics, you have to keep on fighting and fighting and fighting for, especially in the UK with the NHS, you just have to keep on fighting. Like say, the moment you give up, it's like say it'll just move on to the next person. So yeah, it's keep on going. It's one of those things. So
totally changed my life. Look at that.
And it's amazing. Look,
you know when you have a busy day though, and it's just like it's gone, and then you like try and get it back up, and then you do fine. Like,
it's awesome. Can you share your data with other people as well?
Yeah, the nurses at the hospital and like that.
So it's really cool because let's say with mine, my wife can see my blood sugar. She gets the alarms of when there's a problem, and
Friends can
it's
get it around you.
it saved my life. So it's technology is a beautiful thing when used correctly, and especially for us diabetics. Things like the Apple Watch, which is the new one, apparently is going to be doing blood sugar as well.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's loads of cool technology bits when implemented into a diabetic's lifestyle, makes it much easier. So final thoughts for me was a big thank you to you. What we are, we're on 47 minutes.
Wow, that went quick, didn't it?
Yeah, 47 minutes. But honestly, thank you. It's been much appreciated.
It needs to be made. It's a great job what you're doing, because it needs to be made aware. You know, I'm going to play out in the next. I've got loads of bookings coming up, and it's like, you know, if I suddenly start looking like that, I'm not drunk. I'm actually need help.
But it's what I used to. Obviously, part of my job, or part of one of my jobs, is I film in places, and also I take care of other crews and other things. And everywhere that when we're on set or when we're doing shoots, is I always tell people, first of all, I always ask people of their medical conditions if they've got any. Some are embarrassed by it sometimes, and second is I tell everyone I'm diabetic, because in certain situations, if you just go plonk down, no one knows what to do. And so it's important again, that not that it's shame, but awareness is, as I like to frame it, as awareness of tell people you're diabetic. It can save your life, number one. And people will ask questions, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions as well, because every day is like a school day, as always. So, and people are there to learn. And
well, at the school there was I think there was two other ones, and myself, we'd all just have a laugh about it. You know, it's like, right, what do we do if it's at 10 points so and so? Little blah, what has to happen? They're like that. Oh, we don't need to do anything because it could be that. I'm like, perfect. Like, just get them when they're young as well. So like understand what it's all about, because the worst thing for them would be something happens to you and they didn't know what to do.
Exactly. You know? And it can be quite scary, and that event can stick in their life as possibly a negative event, which then they become scared of every single time. So frame it in a positive way, and then it, let's say, it helps going forward. So any final words from you? Any social media promotional stuff? We got to have a little plug on something, or where can people find you, check you out? On
my Facebook, I would say DJ Lisa Lashes / that's it. Facebook.com/Lisa and Instagram the same, DJ Lisa Lashes. What else? On Twitter, just the same handle all the way through. Got a good thing though, Looking Good, which was out 21 years ago. Sam Divine has just done a remix of it, so like a defected kind of house music style on there. So check that out. That's going to be on the Tidy label. And and check out. I'm going to be playing vinyl. I've got 7 gigs in.
Yay!
Out again with me.
So who's carrying the boxes? Who's carrying the boxes?
Don't know yet. No. Yeah, exactly. I found some amazing tunes as well. I'm like that. I'm totally playing these. Look,
I'm coming back. I'm coming back soon. So again, I will be coming to see you. And your music school is, what was it? DJ, or was it Lisa Lashes?
Lisa Lashes School of Music. Yes.
.com was it?
.com. Yes.
Okay then. So guys, thank you very much for listening. This podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon Music, Mixcloud. We're just waiting for Apple to get their bleep in order. So it's there. So thank you to Lisa from the bottom of my heart, and also to everyone that listens. Please do share. Please do support, like, follow, all the usual stuff for social media. Spread the news to your diabetic friends. You can catch me, the Conscious Diabetic, at Conscious Diabetic, or the website consciousdiabetic.com. Finally, big love to everyone. Thank you
for having me. Amazing. Thank you.
And speak to you. See you. Tune in next week for the next episode.
For more information about being a Conscious Diabetic. Check out consciousdiabetic.com. Check out our Conscious Diabetic socials on Instagram and Facebook at Conscious Diabetic. Are you a conscious diabetic? Leave us your reviews and feedback.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Big love. Love.
Love.
Love. From all of us.